Welcome to the video, guys. This is just a quick one here, giving an update on the grooming gang petition that the government have responded to. They have still not considered it for a debate, so we still have that to come, but by what they're saying here, I wouldn't expect too much from them on that front. Their statement in response to this petition is complete nonsense in my opinion, but we will read through it anyway. We will still obviously have to wait, like I've said, for the debate to be considered, but this doesn't give me much hope if I am honest. Their statement reads, "Tackling child sexual abuse is this government's priority. Any insight gained from our internal work will inform our future action to end this devastating abuse, including the forthcoming strategy. Child sexual abuse is a truly horrendous crime that shatters the lives of victims and their families. The government has made it our mission to protect the most vulnerable in our society, and we will continue to work tirelessly at every level to protect children, support victims, and stamp out offending. Our approach is simple. We will do everything in our power to help those at risk and to leave offenders with no place to hide." Which I'm sorry to say is complete nonsense. Your approach is simply to do nothing. Their claim they will do everything in their power to help those at risk and leave offenders with no place to hide is complete nonsense. If that was the case, then they would release this report in full so it could get the maximum media attention possible, therefore bringing it to the attention of most of the country who do not know about it. Remember, there was only 121,000 signatures on there, meaning most of the country is not even aware that this petition exists and, from my experience, likely don't even know the grooming gang situation was even a thing, because the media have done a good job of suppressing it over the years with the help of government, police, social services and various other organisations, who have already been called out for it, as we know. So, no, they're not leaving them no place to hide. Releasing the report and getting it out there to the country is what would leave them no place to hide. First, we have improved support for those who have suffered this appalling crime. Yeah, right, I don't believe that in the slightest. The support at the time, though, mind you, was MPs telling them to shut up for the sake of diversity, so maybe they have improved that, though it's not exactly a high bar to go from, is it? We have increased funding for specialist local services for victims of sexual violence from 8 million to 12 million a year. Funding was not the problem. The problem was they didn't want to be called racist for pointing out that Pakistani men were raping young white British girls on an industrial scale simply because of their race or religion. So funding for your local services is complete nonsense and just sounds like something that the Labour Party would come out with, proving, as I've said many times, in some regards all political parties are essentially two cheeks of the same arsehole. Those affected have our unequivocal support. Well, those affected want you to release it, so I would say that is not your unequivocal support. We have also doubled our support for victims and survivors of child sexual abuse fund to 1.2 million to help charities do more to help people across the country. Oh, so the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has a bigger PR budget than the fund to support victims of child sexual abuse. You gotta love them priorities there, ain't ya? Second, the vile offenders preying on our children must face justice. What justice is that? Letting them go because you don't want to appear racist? This is just nonsense. The Home Office continues to support and drive improvements in the police response to child sexual abuse. We have prioritised this horrific crime as a national threat to ensure offenders face the full force of the law and provide significant police transformation fund investment to improve the police response. Once again, money was not the issue with this situation. It had nothing to do with the Tory cuts. Whoever wrote this thing here is starting to sound like a Labour MP. This is to do with police inaction because they didn't want to appear racist and in some cases blaming the victims for what was going on, as we all know. It's got nothing to do with money, it's all to do with political correctness and the fear of being called racist for arresting these scumbags. Group offending must be eradicated and we continue to provide special grant funding to forces carrying out major child sexual exploitation investigations. Note, the police at the moment, it seems, would rather run around trying to arrest and find people who are out walking about on the streets during the lockdown, rather than trying to get these scumbags who are abusing children. So, I'm sorry, I don't believe any of that paragraph there, that they have written. First off, it sounds like it was written by a Labour Party member, as most of this does. And secondly, it's not even addressing the issues at hand here. They're always on about funding when it's got nothing to do with that. It's to do with their complete inaction. Last September, we announced an additional 30 million to strengthen our mission to take down the worst offenders and safeguard and support victims. We continue to look for ways to do more and are developing a cross-government child sexual abuse strategy to ensure the whole system works for victims. The strategy will set out how we will work across all sectors, including government, law enforcement, safeguarding and industry, to stop offenders in their tracks and to help victims and survivors rebuild their lives. Group-based child sexual exploitation is a particularly repugnant form of abuse that has a devastating impact on villages, towns and communities. No, it really doesn't, because the media, government and the police, social services and the rest of them do their best to cover it up and blame the victims. These unthinkable crimes tear neighbourhoods apart and leave lasting scars that go beyond the direct victim. Extremists may also seek to exploit legitimate concerns to sow further division. No, there's no extremists trying to sow further division. There are just people of this country trying to get the government to protect our children. Child sexual abusers come from all walks of life, yes, but we are not talking about general child sexual abuse here, are we? Remember, there is a difference. We are talking about industrial scale rape of children by Pakistani men aimed at mostly white British girls simply because of their race and religion. They think these white girls are beneath them and that is the end of it, because remember, extremists to them will be practically anyone who wants to call out these grooming gangs. They have to attack them there and call them extremists. The government will continue to challenge these views and to help communities unite. Well, if these so-called views are what you're worried about, shit like this response here is only going to encourage them. You're not challenging the views, you're just trying to sweep it under the rug. Yes, they do. That is correct. But what we are talking about here, which is what the petition is about, is grooming gangs. Massive gangs of people, mainly from Pakistani origin, that are going around and abusing young girls in this country. This is not a lone offender against a single child. This is multiple offenders abusing up to 20,000 girls a year. There is a big difference, so you need to stop trying to palm it off with child sexual abusers come from all walks of life. We're all aware of that. We are talking about one specific form here, not a generalisation. We can get to that after because, let's be honest, you're not doing a very good job of dealing with it in general, but first we need to tackle the grooming gang situation. Abuse is abuse, and misplaced sensitivities must never be allowed to put any child at risk. Well, they already have, and likely still continue to. We are clear that police forces must continue to fully investigate these heinous crimes whenever and wherever they occur, and to ensure that anyone found responsible is prosecuted. Well, apparently, that's very different to what Sir Keir Starmer was saying when he was the head of public prosecutions between 2008 and 2013, when this situation was at the height of it being covered up. To help end this terrible form of abuse, the Home Office has been investigating the characteristics of group-based child sexual exploitation, which is why we have this petition up. You do not need to tell us something we already know. It is right, proper and routine for the government to carry out internal fact-finding work as part of policy development, as we do across a range of crime threats. Any insights gained from this important internal work will be used to inform our future action to end this devastating abuse, including the forthcoming strategy. Well, when this report was commissioned by Sajid Javid, he didn't say there that it was going to be internal. In fact, he said it was going to be an open review of it that would be made public. So don't give us any of this, it's right, proper and routine for the government to carry out internal fact-finding work. This here was not for internal policy development. It was to see how the government, police and all of the other services had failed these girls, and get to the bottom of the characteristics of these grooming gangs and why they do it. Though, to be honest, we already know, don't we guys? Our research will help us better understand offending to help prevent these vile crimes. Key findings will inform our own work, action at a local level and law enforcement action to catch those responsible for this horrific abuse. As part of our work, we have completed a review of existing literature. We have spoken to investigators and safeguarding professionals to better explore the challenges in investigating these crimes and their understanding of the offenders and victims of group-based sexual exploitation. Well, there ain't much to understand, you just need to listen to what the victims have had to say. It's kind of obvious. The government appreciates public interest in this matter and shares the nation's outrage and determination to end this atrocious form of abuse. Mistakes have undoubtedly been made and are clearly still being made by this piss-poor response in the past and must never be allowed to happen again. We all know it's going to continue week in, week out. We continue to work relentlessly to understand and end all forms of child sexual abuse. The most vulnerable in our society deserve our protection, and we will work tirelessly to keep them safe and to bring their tormentors to justice, providing they're not Pakistani. So if they're white, we'll bring them to justice. If they're Pakistani or Muslim, we'll leave them out of the way because we don't want to be called racist. That whole response there was a complete load of nonsense and them essentially just fobbing us off. 121,000 signatures, and this is the response we get. Now, like I've said, we're still waiting for them to consider this for a debate. I'm not hopeful that they actually will. I expect they're just going to long it off and that'll be the end of it there. So we might have to try and look into other ways at getting this information released because it needs to be out there. They can sit there and say it's not in the public's interest and how they're doing all this internally. No, that is not what the report was commissioned for, so we cannot allow it. Now before I go, I've started doing live streams and uploading gaming content on my second channel. If you would like to come and join me for a live stream to chat in real time, have an interest in gaming related content on YouTube, or just want to follow me over there because you are a legend, the link will be down in the video description below and as a pinned comment. I hope to see you all there. Now as always, before I go, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot, and I will see you all in the next one.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.